What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 39. I'm your host, Marcus, and in this episode, I have a special guest for you guys. Her name is Tracy Lamourie. She's a high profile international award winning publicist featured in Rolling Stone, NBC, CBC, Huffington Post, 30 Women's International Woman of Hollywood series, and other media around the world. She is someone that I wanted to bring on, that I wanted to get her origin story and also provide you guys somebody, a publicist, which is something that I found quite unique in how she could help. Perhaps you wanting to be an entrepreneur, or perhaps you are an entrepreneur. But it's not just that. She also has some fantastic advice for making change in your life. And that's ultimately why I wanted to bring her on to share her story, to help inspire you guys to make change in your life and to see how she kind of unfolded in her life and kind of essentially stumbled upon something she had extreme passion for, and to see that come through on this conversation I had with Tracy was absolutely remarkable. So I don't want to continue on any further. I would like to get this conversation started. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Tracy Lamourie. And welcome, everybody. I would like everybody to meet a special guest of mine who I met through a very interesting outlet. Nonetheless, we're meet up with other podcasters. But nonetheless, I wanted to bring her in because she had a really interesting story. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Tracy Lamourie.
Lamourie, you got it. Hi there.
Fantastic.
How are you?
I'm doing great, Tracy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Doing my PR thing.
Doing your PR
Actually,
thing?
doing which is two not-for-profit stuff today. I'm feeling great. Actually, one of my friends, she's like, it's not a paid thing. This is the when I can use the power of the media. I'm smiling because we got 5 local media outlets today to respond to a story about the devastation in Haiti and what a local group is doing about that. And and then our city messaged them after seeing all the local media talk about. They said the local city said, we'd like to put on our social media your org, and they're giving 100% of the money, 100% like directly on the ground to Haiti. So I've actually got chills today thinking like, I put out words that made a giant difference, that I can physically see. Anyway, it feels pretty good. That's what I joke, that's my superpower. Usually I'm doing that. Originally I started doing it, I learned to do those things, to access media in order to, get the word out about things I cared about. And then for the last 10 years, it's been for profit and it's been business, and I do it for small businesses and whoever. But this is how I learned to write a press release, was for that. So I'm feeling pretty good that, all that happened. Anyway, that's what I'm excited about today.
Well, that's a great reason to be excited. That's awesome to be able to give back, right?
I mean, obviously I'm upset. It's sad that, it happened.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm really happy that it wasn't wasted effort anyway. Everybody's doing a lot of work on the ground, and that we can now give them some money. I was only able to donate like a little bit, like every person, we're only able to donate a bit, but I thought, wait, what can we do? So yeah, I wanted to share that.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're extremely busy. I mean, like you just said, you're doing some quite amazing things, and I wanted to bring you on to like uncover like who you are, like your origin story, Tracy. I wanted to kind of dig deep and see, what drives you, because I don't know a lot about publicists, right? But I know you amplify people's voices, and that's one thing that I love, because that's something I try to do through the stuff that I do, right? And to see that you do it, and to see what impact you've made. Obviously, I mean, the story you just shared, I mean, you made some dramatic impacts. You've also have some really incredible stories too, which I'd like to get in later in. But can you kind of like give us the origin story, Tracy?
Yeah, it's quite it's definitely a trajectory you won't hear from anybody else in PR or probably in business. But basically, so I was, in my early 20s, or I was 25 when I met my husband, Dave Parkinson. He had a radio show, just a local little CIUT, which is University of Toronto radio show. So we did some, and soon he brought me onto it, and it was just justice stuff. We would talk about anti-racism issues, or abuse, corporate, whatever was going on that, as young people in our 20s we thought that the world should know and we could make a difference about. And then when that show didn't exist anymore, because that was just, college radio, and when our opportunity for that had passed, we got married and we were still, young activists, wanted to make a difference. We had full-time jobs, two full-time jobs, full-time and part-time, working to pay the bills. But what we really were in our hearts were like people, what we cared about was, the things we still cared about.
Yeah.
And it was the early days of the internet. So we just thought, oh, well, we can make a website. So we just were going to make a website, just sharing other people's links or whatever. And because you could do that really easily, like you could do Facebook now, it was pre-social media. And so we were just collecting links and just, whatever, who knows? We certainly weren't looking to do with anything to do with the death penalty. And we weren't thinking about justice or jail or American prison system or anything. That was not something that we'd ever dealt with, other than the odd news release that would come by about a well-known case of injustice or something like, Reuben Carter or something like that, But anyway, so somewhere in the internet, we found a little corner of the internet where it turned out later, he had paid $20 to some service to somebody would type this up and be listed. And somehow he ended up, there was a man named Jimmy Dennis who at that time was factually innocent on death row in Pennsylvania. And again, that was nothing to do with us. We were anti-racist activists, but didn't know anything about that stuff. But something about what he wrote there, which was, hey, I guess this was like some kind of pen pal site. I don't know why it came up, but I guess because of the content of what he wrote, it came up in our search. And he was like, I'm not looking for pen pals. I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm not whatever people do for a person. He's like, I'm just, this is literally the only way I know to just help. Please help me. I'm innocent. And I don't know, we were naive, even though we hadn't heard about a million things. It's not like we'd heard that before. We'd heard it before, but not directly from a person. And for some reason, my husband and I were like, well, how innocent can this guy be? And we actually, we wrote, you couldn't send an email, you had to write a letter on a piece of paper, write a letter. And something made us do it. And we, wanted to know, why would you write a letter to death row? Sure, we were activists, but that's still a little extra, right? Especially when we didn't know about all the background information. We didn't know it was just this person saying it. It wasn't, there was no big campaign. There wasn't, but you know what? I thought about it when I was doing a podcast once, it would probably because we had that radio show a few years before. So in our minds, we were still like information gathering. We were like, even though we didn't have an outlet for that, we were people that gathered information and gave it to people. So when we heard that, we were like, and something, I don't know why, but we wrote like cautiously, okay, well, tell us your story, son, but I guess it was a friendly enough letter. I don't remember what we wrote, but I remember, I still have, he probably has it somewhere, but we're still in contact. The end of the story, by the way, I'll tell you in a minute, is positive, but he wrote us a 28-page letter. I thought it was 18, but he corrected me recently. It was 28-page letter on both sides, telling the whole story. Plus, he sent us all the legal documentation that was in his cell at the time, directed us to where we could get more, and said, I don't want nobody to support me if they don't actually know what they're talking about. So just, anyway, somehow we got involved. We once you get to after a letter or two, we're like, other people. Basically, he became like a project manager, but basically, essentially, Google Jimmy Dennis. And now he was freed. We were there involved for 19 years. We're still involved now. He was freed in 2017 on evidence of factual innocence. And he's now a free man in Philadelphia. Not only that, but he's an artist, a music artist who's been covered in Rolling Stone, on Sirius XM. And now we're in a phase where the things I can't even talk about, where the industry, not as a what do you call that, novelty act or something, the actual industry is paying serious attention to the music that he's putting out, which is actually epic. And he was an artist. He was an artist before he went in. And then how he says that he stole his life away, and he stole, he was just about to start the career, everything that he was literally being built at 21 years old was taken away from him. He was put back in the world at 47 when he was finally released, when his daughters were grown up and he had granddaughters the same age as his daughters were and all that. And, making history again. And a lot of people have been released also since on the precedent that his case set, but making history again in a different way. He's the first person to go back to the dreams he had, and he's actually, I mean, by the time he came out, we figured it, because my story is at 40. This is going back to my origin story in a minute. I'll tie it all in. But by the time he came out, we were like, had figured all this out. And all of a sudden, we're international award-winning publicists instead of like little telesales people that are barely paying our rent. And, for years, we were just doing telesales. And meanwhile, we're getting all this major attention, not just for Jimmy, but for the organization that we created as an umbrella, so people were taken more seriously when we talked about this issue, as opposed to just advocating for one person. We created the Canadian Coalition Against the Death Penalty. 27, 28 years old, We had no media history except for a little radio show. We certainly had no legal experience, and we were on CNN. MSNBC, Court TV, A&E, Nancy Grace, like seriously being interviewed, and then it didn't hit me. Meanwhile, we just kept on doing that. That wasn't for profit. We were already, it wasn't for building a career. I wasn't even thinking about that because we were already successfully doing what we were set out to do, which is getting the messaging out about Jimmy and about these cases, and about what we decided with we grew into like being against the death penalty through what we learned about the misapplication of it and all that stuff. And anyway, that was a whole other story. But meanwhile, but here's how the interesting thing. So all those media sources we're in our late 20s through our passionate work, right?
Mhm.
And it didn't hit me till I'm 41. I'm 51 now, so I've been doing this for a decade professionally. But at 41, a decade ago, it hit me like a light bulb moment. And I wish I could remember what I was thinking about the moment before. But it hit me like a light bulb. Wait a minute, these skills, that I've been doing of getting all these media, that's been from my messaging. Like,
Mhm.
and that's actually a skill that people pay. Isn't that called a publicist? Then I suddenly realized, and that was after. And in the interim, I'd even, I would always be the one that I'd write a press if I was involved with a political campaign, like just as a volunteer, I'd be like, oh well, I'll write a press release, and everybody would be like, oh what now? And I'd be like, well, because I knew how to do that.
Yeah.
So I became a campaign man. Like literally, I'd done all this stuff, but never for profit, never figuring out that I was actually acting for 20 years, like for a decade as a
Mhm.
publicist. And then 10 years ago, I finally had that light bulb moment. And literally from that moment, I said, yeah, I'm not going to make these calls about something I don't care about anymore. And I started because we all have the magical box in front of us,
Mhm.
researching how I would do that, how I would find clients, got one or two clients, figured it out, got more high profile client, rocked that. And literally this is where I start teaching people now, anybody can do that. I didn't go to school for this. PR is a 4-year discipline, but really it's, a collection of skills. And if you believe you can do something and you just start doing it and you show that you can do it, other than being a surgeon or something, people will start to be like, well, nobody asked me where I went to school. They don't care. They say a lot, I'm proud to say I didn't, but they see a long, long list of successes and they want in on get me. Okay, they're not, certainly you can go find a whole bunch of publicists who graduated with whatever degree, but let me see what successes they have. And I just started doing it. So not to sound like Nike, but just do it. And I like to quote Rocky Horror Picture Show, don't dream it, be it.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I mean, like, what point did you get to where you were? You said you've harnessed. You realized that you had the skill, right? Like, it took you a while to realize that you had it. Do you think the publicity you were getting from you said from the other outlets, really helped you pull away from all that? Essentially from everything else to be able to build a bigger business off of that. Yeah, I know
Well,
you
it
said you
was
had a smaller.
sort of, but there was like a decade between it because when we were getting that big media, that was still when we were 29, 30, 31. And, and then we, settled down on some of it because we went, the lawyer, our goal got accomplished, which was to get the attention, to get somebody who would be more powerful than us that could actually help him. Media
Mm-hmm.
didn't free him. The
Yeah.
lawyers freed him. Right. But the fact that, we didn't get this Washington, D.C. law firm. So he was in Philadelphia with his family paying for some lawyer that wasn't doing anything or paying any attention. And then they had no lawyer after that because they ran out of money. And then we got made all this major media so that when this big law firm from Washington, D.C. was looking around because for whatever big law firms do, this is like a unicorn. Like it actually doesn't happen in the activist world. But they were looking for a case that they could do pro bono. A Washington D.C. law firm that doesn't just do criminal law. They're a big name firm. They were looking for a pro bono case of a factual innocent person. They wanted somebody who's actually innocent. And when they started looking around the country and making queries, everyone said to them, Jimmy Dennis, check out Jimmy Dennis. And a year before, they wouldn't have been able to. Nobody would have said that because nobody knew about him. So we amplified it, which was our hope initially. Why we made that website, we're like, what the heck can we do? Because when he wrote us a 28-page letter, what's our response? We wrote, oh, this is interesting. Tell us the story. And somebody writes back 28 pages on both sides. Now they're like, clearly that's hope for him. He spent a lot of time doing that and hoping it would make a difference. So what do we do with that? Do we just go, oh, that was an interesting read. Cool beans.
Yeah.
Or do we like, what can we do? We're not lawyers. We're working 2 jobs to pay our rent. But maybe somebody else out there, maybe a lawyer will come. Maybe that was literally the dream, And then
Yeah.
about 2 years in, that happened. And we, for 19 years, became, and he's brother now and friend. But it's interesting now we laugh because, like, when we met, he was on death row. Nobody was listening. We're a couple of, crazy activists in Canada. with no money to buy stamps or whatever we were in our 20s, right? And then and now we're literally international award-winning publicists working across industries, working across, whatever, which you don't get from my origin story there. But if you look at my bio, it's like, wait, what? How did that happen from all that? But so the difference was years of just working before, and just before. So it's not like we had media and then I said, hey, I can switch this around. It was literally looking back later going, wait a minute, I've been writing press releases for years, from Jimmy to
Mhm.
political campaigns and they work. I know how to deal with media. Nobody knows what I'm talking about when I start suggesting, well, why aren't you getting quoted? And then as I started, and then further beyond that, now obviously I'm like, I've got every publicist trick in the book. I've learned, self-taught. I mean, all the resources that we have and all the tricks, and to the point where I get hired from Canada constantly in Los Angeles. And I had one LA client who'd hired her, LA. She's literally a Beverly Hills person with a name, who fired her LA publicist, and she said to me, "You do more than any other publicist that I've met." And it's because I wasn't trained what the boxes is or be. I do what I would do for myself. Your public image, So yeah, so it was from that, but like I'm an idiot because it took years before I realized that, and so it's like I was almost starting fresh because
Mhm.
none of those media knew me, and it probably is good because it would be difficult to transition from the death row activist to now I'm the publicist giving you media messaging to the same reporters. So it was actually a span of years, but it was when I figured out those skills where I'm like, wait a minute. And then from there was no stopping me. And that's why it's more important to other people, not just to hear my story, but from there, what I've been able to do with that, which was to put in a box the relevant part to most people rather than the human rights part, but the relevant part to most people. I had a passion for something, which could have been your hobby. In my case, it was, more than that. But people are passionate about their hobby. They have skills. They're really good at something. They love what they're doing. They're, good at it, but they feel like they have to stop doing that, or their 9 to 5 has to pay for that, and they have to hate their 9 to 5. But
Yeah.
everybody has something they love and skills and something truly that could, you could literally be living a life where you're like, I literally posted the other day, is there anybody else who's like literally excited to wake up and check their work emails in the morning? And I'm thinking people are going to hate me posting that, but I really mean it because it's always
Yeah.
something amazing. And you can build a life you love if we're not in that box where we think you can't. I thought I couldn't because I didn't have money to go to university. So I
Mhm.
wasn't doing that. I was going to work and living, paying the bills. Meanwhile, the University of Life literally was teaching me all these skills. And then now I teach students how to do PR for small business, like regularly in a college out of California that's now in Florida. I also teach like regularly, like Algonquin College, a big university in Ottawa, had me speak to their PR students. Pennsylvania, which was hilarious because that's where I wrote my first press release, has a PR, group. They didn't know anything to do with that history. They just knew me as this, internationally successful publicist, and they asked me to come and speak. So now I speak to PR, teaching people who are educated in PR what I figured out over the last decade. And if you search my name, like I've done for my brand, just by doing for myself what I do for other people. So the
Mhm.
proof is in the pudding. Like I don't just say it, I show it,
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, yeah, I've definitely seen that through all your media outlets. How do you view like intuition, right? Like, how did you follow your intuition through this whole moment, or was it just more like you kind of just fell into it and realized what was going on, pieced it all together, and just started rolling with it?
Kind of both. I mean, intuition. What I guess it depends how you define intuition. Because I'm a super strategic person in one way, but at
Mhm.
the same time, I never could have planned this trajectory. So the
Yeah.
only thing I could have planned is just be, and like keep on going. The confidence that's got you, as the red hair, crazy, overweight girl, whatever that wouldn't look like the average office, whoever, the confidence to let you go and be successful and rip a path and like to the point where other people are putting you on stages and paying you, fly you place. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
someone might have thought, oh no, what you should do, you should just go and get rid of that funny color, grow up. You know what I mean? Go and be the. No, you don't necessarily have to because
Mhm.
you propel yourself. If you so, I guess I believe I'm very strategic when it comes to planning. Like I'm sitting down planning a thing, but I could never have strategized this career. Like I'm blown away every day, literally, by the opportunities that come and how things happen. And you'll be having a random conversation with a person that you never would have thought. Like for example, literally, normally it's not my audience or not my general genre, but I get a call from a pastor who wrote a book, and the book is about, how he overcame addiction, and he was like a rough guy, and he overcame addiction. But now he's like a big tattooed pastor in a place in Texas. I'm like, pastor's little. But I read his book and I saw that, but it's funnily enough, when he first met me, the whoever from whatever Bible church, I'm getting the email thing, what's this about? Turns out, and the reason he's contacting me is he was talking to, I won't name the band, but one of his friends in like a really giant 90s-ish band, but they still have a big name in it, like a big band. And he's like, my friend in whatever, whoever. And I thought he meant, do I know him personally? Because sometimes in PR world. So I said, oh, no, I don't know him personally, but I know who you mean. Meaning like people. And he's like, well, yeah, that's my friend. And he said I should get a publicist. And he said he had a publicist, that he was recommending to me. But when I started looking at you, I really liked your vibe. And I was like, so you never would have expected that all of a sudden this pastor, but he's, this close to some major rock, and that happens literally every day, or the rock star calls and recommends you to do it. So when you're in the mix, it's a really small world. You know how they say it's a small world? And if you put yourself out there like I do, and I do it big with full confidence, I just do what I do, and I'm not afraid to tell people what I do. And that's and that's not arrogance. It's the difference between arrogance and, celebration and confidence. Like my friend Anne Marie said, arrogance has a smirk and confidence has a smile. It's a big difference, inspiring, like what you do, talking about, if a human can do it, so can you. If I can do it, I didn't know the celebrities before. I didn't know any celebrities. I didn't know. I was a kid trying to get a guy off death row that everybody thought was guilty. Do you think the doors were like swinging open for me?
Yeah.
No, but I
Yeah,
expected people to want to hear that message, though. I expected people to care like I did. And so I went into the world with that. And the same with everything later. You expect that when you go to the job interview. Now, I mean, if somebody calls me, I'm literally feeling like I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And it's probably that confidence, not arrogance, because I'm always super like, you know what I mean? Polite, and I'm not an arrogant person, but I'm also confident that, hey, you know what? If this doesn't work, if it's not a fit, then we both go our separate ways and we're good. There's going to be another opportunity, and there will, because I know that. So it's not just me, because I didn't come out of the box this way. This is literally me figuring this out after just all I had was that, like, nope, no, you know what? I don't care. Maybe it's because, I just was determined that I wasn't going to have to fit in that box. I was going to succeed. And so I just kept doing things and letting those, when you're open to opportunities, what do they say? Things happen, right? So.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I must say I love your energy, Tracy. It's
I know I talk a lot. I get excited about this.
well, I mean, that's it. Is like, so you've always had a passion for this, right? To amplify people's voice.
Yeah, not from business, but from doing it, like from the people's voice that I thought needed to be amplified, or things that people needed to know about. And now the business part has become a interesting new love. So at first I thought, entertainment, that'd be interesting, and that. But now, since I've been doing so much with small businesses, it's really become a passion, which surprised young activists me, right? But what I've noticed is it's just the same thing as the creative. It's the same as the entertainer. It's somebody building their dream. Like, I like small and medium-sized business where it's an individual person that can be interviewed about their passion and why they're doing this and all that, as opposed to some big corporation where you get them a media opportunity and we're all sitting around a boardroom talking about who's going to take boring, more money in that, but not fun. I like helping people literally get a voice who wouldn't know how to do that otherwise. And then all of a sudden, wow, like, oh my God, our org just, now we're in 5, media, and now thousands of dollars are rolling in. Before in 80, before it was trickling from our friends, and now we can tell those people or somebody building their business, like, hey, I had this little idea, and now, geez, oh my God, now I can feed my family, and I can hire 2 people. And now I'm seeing how that's really important, like an activist thing too. Now those people have a freedom and a change, ability to change their little part of the world, and instead of just being cogs in the machine that, where you don't think you have a option to be something different.
Yeah, most definitely. One thing I've noticed, right, is you talk about amplifying someone's voice. What do you think, like, holds people back, that their voice doesn't perhaps matter, right? Because you talk about going and seeking all these different things, and like, even for myself, like, I just turned 40 and I'm going out and seeking, trying to be an entrepreneur and everything, and it's like, well, what essentially gives my voice weight, right? Like, what do you see in people that you can, like, pull
So
that
the
out of
way,
them.
yeah, well, whenever I meet someone like small business person, you're clearly an expert in whatever you do, or a
Mhm.
podcaster, you're an expert in your subject matter. That's given, or you wouldn't be doing it. And when I say to people, well, why aren't you being interviewed? And they're looking at me like with that exact thought in their mind, like, why would anybody? I'm just a, real estate agent. I'm just a doctor. There's a million of us. I'm just a, you know, first people don't realize, like, they don't think about how much media needs those voices, like they need to have sources, right? So how do they pick you out of a million of them? Well, that's the only difference between you and the people on TV, or you and the people at the, getting the awards, are that they or somebody else told TV or told the award show about what they're doing. So if you start noticing and thinking that way, so I say to people, why aren't you being interviewed? And they're like, well, why would they want to interview me? And I'm like, well, are you a scam? And they're like, what do you mean? Of course not. I'm like, well, exactly. You're taking money from people to for do what you do. So clearly, you're an expert, or you wouldn't be putting your shingle out and taking the money from people to do that. You're by saying I'm a whatever, or I'm a podcaster, listen to me. You're saying I'm an expert, obviously. I know, or I'm sharing expert opinion or whatever, right? So you're a business person. Even if it's like you're gonna mow people's lawns. Well, why are they paying you? So clearly, you're saying I have a little bit more. I know what I'm doing. Okay, so now that you know what you're doing, we already established that. Take that same self confidence that makes you able to take people's money and say, I'll do that. That's exactly the same understanding you need to realize that you're the expert that has every, then it's just a matter of finding the opportunities. These things. There's media things like, for example, looking for real estate agents is a great example because agents spend $1 million on, or a lot of money, not a million, on advertising. We all know 15 agents, and if we don't know them, you walk out your door and you see an ad for 5 of them, but nothing differentiates those ads. They're all smiley, they all right. So but meanwhile, every single day, and I'm always like, oh my God, because none of those guys know, or they wouldn't be spending all their money on advertising instead of PR. That literally every single day, literally, we see incoming requests from across, like, Reader's Digest, NBC, all kinds of things, specifically for real estate agents, asking everything from what color should somebody paint their kitchen to sell more? Or do you have a story, or why people are people looking for shorter commutes to work now that there's COVID, or does that not matter anymore? Are people doing this? Are people, what kind of space are they looking for in their homes for work? That's just a couple of examples that I've seen like in the last couple of days. Any real estate agent who wants to respond to that just has to put together their good answer, cognizant of what they're looking for with their expertise, blah, 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 not advertorial, but editorial, know where to send it, or have a publicist that knows where to send it. And the next day they could be in Reader's Digest. Boom. The next day they're in whatever. Boom. And then they put it on their website as seen in Good Housekeeping Reader's Digest. And it's not an ad. It's where
Mhm.
they've been interviewed. So that's literally, it's not hard. Well, it's not hard. It's a numbers game and reaching out. You got to know where to go and how to pitch. You know where to find the opportunities and how to pitch them. But when it comes to your knowledge, you have the knowledge. Like, for example, I don't know much about you already, but I know I'd be able to write a 200-word pitch just on the knowledge that you have based on, what I see from the shows and the people that you interview. And, so now you have a perspective and an expertise on people across, not North America, wherever else you interview, on these issues. So you can speak on how people are, how are inspiring themselves, keeping positive, how they're, I could write a whole pitch based on you, and then you put what are some interesting segments, because I always say spoon feed the media. So I don't just send my bio, even though my bio is awesome, because then you might be like, okay, great. What do you want me to say? You know,
Yeah.
3 cheers. But I say Tracy can do compelling segments on how anybody, for example, can catapult themselves to the top of any industry using earned media and PR, which is what I generally talk about. So I say, there you go. She can do a little talk about that, or she can talk about, advertising versus editorial versus advertorial, why businesses need to think about PR. Or she can talk about what you said, building up. One of my things is about what's the first step to get media, that people are asking me. But the first step is hold up. It's about you. It's, building up your own confidence and realizing that you are an expert and here you have something to give. Doesn't mean that every single source is going to take it right now, but I mean, you start getting yourself out there, and you have to invest a little bit of time in it, and less time if you hire someone like me. Here's the advertorial part. I work across industries and across borders. You can contact me for a free consult. But even, me or any other publicist, like I always say, if you have more time than money, then there's some things you should definitely be checking out and learning to process yourself and understanding. If you have more money than time, and I don't mean if you're a billionaire, if you're rich, I mean if you have a marketing budget, if you have some money that you use for promotion, I challenge you to take 1 month of that and put it towards PR. Me, I'll show you. You'll get, for your dollar, you'll actually get interviews, several of them, because I've been at this for a long time. I don't take anybody coming in if I don't already have in my head first three spots I'm going to get them. And then for the rest of the month, we don't know. We're looking at opportunities. It depends on what you want, all that stuff. But right off the top, I'm like, okay, you're getting Ticker TV Australia. All right, by Power Women, I'll get NBC, California, because I have a show there that features women. I have this one, you know what I mean? You have an article in this magazine. So right off the top, from that money, not only you're going to get features, but you're also your mind will be blown. You're going to understand yourself as an expert. You're going to see that pitch that we use, and you're going to see the opportunities that you're missing. So even if you were doing like 1 month of PR and then walking away going, that's all my investment into this, you would have articles to put on your page, things to add to your bio. Plus, now you're going to walk away. You have your pitch now that you can start sending to on your own when you see potential media opportunities. Do it.
Do it. Yeah, most definitely. My thing is like for like a lot of different people, right? Like, because I know like a lot of like beginner like starting entrepreneurs, right? Like for them, like you think they should um, build their confidence in what they're doing first before coming into someone like PR or something like that.
No, see, a lot of time people aren't that like. I have two groups of clientele. One that they know they need PR, they know what PR is, they've heard of me, and they contact me because they want me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I have other people that I just meet in life, or whenever somebody introduces me, and says, "Oh my God, you got to talk to Tracy. See, she gets people in media," and they have no concept of it. They haven't thought about it before. They don't need all this media training. Like I said, you are already an expert. There's media opportunities. You can hire me tomorrow. If you don't want to be ever on TV or radio, I could still get you media. Those sources I was talking about where, Reader's Digest and whatever send you the questions, you answer and you're in them. Those are usually done by email. So once, they're vetted by a PR company, they know they're talking to a legit expert. We send them the links and everything. They send the questions. I send them to you. You know, you either answer them by typing them, or you and I do a call. I say, here's what they asked. You tell me, and I write it down for you, and I send it out to the reporter along with all these links about why they should interview my client, your compelling bio, and all blah blah blah, all those power words, and then you get in. So really, and also just having the cachet of having a publicist send things to media for you right there, it already frames you as a ready to go expert who understands media. So, it's up to the person whether they want to jump in and do like podcasts and television if they're that, which most people should be confident because they have the knowledge, but that's different between having the knowledge and being comfortable talking about it for a lot of people. But I find even people who aren't familiar or comfortable in that environment, somebody familiar to them, ask them a question, they can go off 5 minutes on their expertise and give you a beautiful quote. And so it doesn't matter. And there's no good time either. People say, should I do it before I start a business, after? Again, from my perspective, from your perspective, you're selling your book or your company or your phone. And obviously if you're going to be doing that tomorrow and you're just getting all your website ready, clearly, obviously you'd want your website and everything ready before you go to media so that media can go and look at whatever. But long term, I'm not a marketing or sales department. What I do will have impact on your marketing and sales because obviously if more people see it, hopefully they'll like what you have to offer. But it's not my job to sell the product. It's my job to sell you as an expert. And what that does is supports you selling your product, gives you that gravitas when you talk, when you sell your product, when you ask for speaking engagements, when you look for investors. As one client said to me, "You changed my business and my life." And when I said, "What do you mean?" I said this before. She literally said, "You've made investors take us more seriously." And obviously, I hadn't thought about that, but everybody can make our own pretty little decks and our social media saying great things. If you're going to drop $100 million or 10 million or a million or whatever people give, you're going to go and do your due diligence and you're going to go beyond their pretty graphics and you're going to Google them. So if there's nothing on there but their LinkedIn, or like after 4 weeks of work, or was it? He was, I think, after 6 weeks of work with me, she had 4 articles and 2 interviews and an award nomination. So now you
Wow.
international articles calling her an innovator in her field, and a disruptor and feature. So now you look at that and you're gonna, oh, okay, now I have something. Okay, she's already doing this. Huh. So then they're talking about hard results there. And also, so I wasn't never thinking about things like that in terms of, finance, but in terms of, what I knew was attracting your other customers, differentiating yourself from your competition, building your global reputation as a thought leader, being able to be called to speak on industry events. And even if you're in corporate and you're not an entrepreneur, you should be thinking about this kind of thing because it's building you. So when you leave, so it's not about what you're selling today, whether you're at corporate or not. It's about you and your knowledge. You are the thing. But tomorrow, if you leave your job and go for another job, or if you wanted the corner office, or later if you decide to write a book about this, or whatever things that you don't even know. So today you might be selling your book. That's what I mean. But I'm not. I'm doing promo for the book and promo for you. But primarily, I want to make you the star. My business is about making building thought. Best way to put it is my business is making superstars and thought leaders. So if you're an entrepreneur, I want to make you a thought leader, a global thought leader, so that when you Google your name, it's like when you Google my name. I'm a little turbo because now I'm to the point where I have a very message that anybody can, anybody who needs media, which is pretty much anybody, I can speak to that audience. So now, like, I'm at the point where if I want to be on a show, I pretty much pitch the show, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, yes, please," because the knowledge, they look at the other ones and the knowledge, it's just really good. Not the whole death row story and stuff, but I mean, the part about like the factual stuff, the tips that I give, and I'll say things. Take your pen out, like check out helpareporterout.net, Arrow, and Source Bottle. These are where you can see everyday incoming media opportunities. But it takes finesse and understanding to know how to respond to them too, to not be
Mhm.
advertorial. They can give you an idea, and if you're really good and you get the idea about editorial versus advertorial, you can certainly go and respond to some of them on your own. But if you have a publicist like me, we're looking at those opportunities, at a whole bunch of other opportunities. People are reaching out to us. We're always searching for everything from global stages for you to international awards to local recognition to,
Very nice.
bam.
Yeah, that was the pitch.
No, I'm not even trying. But you know what? I still love this stuff, like, honestly. But I really want people to understand it's not even, about coming to me. There's a million PR companies out there, and I'm sure a lot of them are amazing, right? So it's literally, but I really am passionate about having entrepreneurs understand this as something they should be doing. Just like, there's a million market. We all get marketing to some extent. We all get that we have to set up our business at the back end to some extent. But to me, this is like literally, I mean, I've never placed an ad in my life, and look at my profile. Like, I've never paid for an ad, not once. So anywhere, ever. So the proof is, I started with like a desktop computer in the corner of my living room,
Mhm.
and this. In the past, so what I really want people to understand is not to come to Lamourie Media, which will be awesome. But I mean, I can't serve everybody, and I can't even serve every listener, of this show, right? If everybody that listens here called in, so it's not about selling me. It really is about. I really do want people to understand, like, if you're in business, what are you an expert in? Tell the world. Talk about, there's a million opportunities, and other people in your industry are going to be doing that. And it's just an easy, I shouldn't say easy. Because I mean, to me it's easy now, but it's a free way for you. There's a million different platforms and ways to do it, to tell the world what you're doing, whether that's to sell books or to get clients or to charity or whatever it is that your passion is. It shouldn't just be you and your friends that know about it. There are other ears.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's fantastic. Something I didn't, to be honest, didn't really even think of.
Most
So
people
it's,
don't. Yeah,
yeah.
90%.
So I mean, it's great to have you on and actually share that because I had no clue.
Yeah,
Uh,
most people don't. That's what I mean. It's really like, that's what I'm passionate about, making people understand, because it ends up being this elite, or people just think that, like I said, people on TV or the people in the awards or other. And now I've broken that barrier, so I'm the one on the TV and the awards, all of that. And I want to say, hey, you know what though? Like, that's why I didn't pay by anybody for this. I didn't. You don't have to do all that. You have to just believe in what you already do, and just not be afraid to show the world what you do. Simple. It's really that simple.
Very nice. Now, I do have some like last minute questions.
All right.
One question I do have is like, what is like some of the worst advice you've had, right? Going through your whole uh, your whole life till now. I mean, you've come along a long ways. You kind of, I guess you could put it like, had that passion and it kind of stumbled into something greater. What is something like throughout that whole time period that you feel is it has been like really bad advice that you just didn't listen to?
It was bad advice that I didn't listen to. I would say not so much a one particular phrase or day that I could point to, but I would say just in my early days as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 22-year-old, navigating the office world, going in just out of high school and getting those entry level office jobs, and you know, this is like a lesson that I take now as a person that can hire and can choose people and can pick and choose and help people to elevate themselves, right? That pay attention, because I think now that obviously, a lot of us, we're not thinking about those frontline workers or if there's a group of 20 telesales people like I was one at one time. They
Yeah.
had no idea of the skills and the power and the potential that they actually had right there in their office that they could have developed, because I wasn't thinking about building my own business. Thank God they didn't do this, because I wasn't thinking, then I would have probably got on some trajectory where I would just be some, I'm sure well paid, successful middle management in corporate doing something I really still don't really actually care about. You know what I mean? And then at
Yeah.
night doing something else, right? But still, I mean, I wouldn't complain. Like most people, I'd have a good job and I'd be paying for the stuff that I cared about. But I'm glad. But so you know what I mean. But they never realized. And I don't know, the other people that were just in a row doing the stupid thing they told us to do by rote, not listening to us because we were just the bottom of the ladder. But now I can only imagine. Some of those people would be clamoring down my door to literally get 10 minutes of my attention for me to do what I can do for them in 10 minutes to get that kind of media attention. They're still the same, but they didn't pay attention to the skills of the other people. So I'm not the smartest person in the room necessarily. I like to think I'm clever and smart. Depends on what room. But yeah, if you think that you're always smart and all the people that are like, your entry level workers, you're not considering what they can do. You have a team, and I've learned from discounting being discounted. So it wasn't that I was given bad advice and didn't take it, but I think I was discounted for a lot of reasons. And I probably, added to it with the red hair and my attitude. I'm not going to go in that box, but I didn't allow being discounted in that way to make me think that I actually can do stuff, or that I was, I just had my own track and continued it. So I think don't allow people to discount you or put you in a box or anything. If you believe you can do it, just take that first step and literally do it. And then when you're at that first step and you see the next step closer and the next step closer, and that's real, not something I learned from motivational speaker. That's true. Actual real stuff.
Well, that's my question. Like for you, for that is like what you talk about, like just doing it. Is there any way that somebody could like just build confidence to do it? Because I
You
know,
know,
like for myself, like I struggle like trying to like help people like build confidence. And what would be like a good piece of advice you would give someone to try to build confidence to get to that point?
and it's funny because at some point you have to jump in, because the confidence comes from doing something well, and this is why kids are super confident. They'll try anything and they'll keep, and then at some point we stop doing that and we start to not want to do things that we already think we're going to fail at. That's a human nature thing, right? So we don't think about that, but we do. That's just the way I like me. Oh, don't talk to me about math. I'm not good at math.
Mhm.
Okay, but I haven't even heard what you're saying, and I'm super smart. Why wouldn't I be good? Because I've already decided that's not my forte. So just like people already decide, oh, well, I'm scared about that. It's all, that's where I guess it comes down to that self-talk.
Mhm.
Get yourself, find a comfort level, push yourself out of your comfort level. First, find like where, I mean, don't go crazy. Like, don't be like challenging yourself to the point where you're going to have anxiety or whatever out of it. So find what your comfort level is. Like, sure, I could answer some questions, and then realize, it's not, just take those little steps. And then by being successful at those little steps, or you're going to see like, why am I this crazy super successful, super confident, whatever now? Well, because when I wasn't paying attention to the nose, like the death penalty thing, why are you helping this guy? That's just crazy. This is sure innocent, yeah. And even if he is, how the heck are you, some 27-year-old, 25 or whatever the heck we were in Toronto, going to do anything about it in another country? Like, get it? Like, why are you wasting your time on that? That was what we heard all the time, and I'm sure I would have said the same thing to my 28-year-old daughter, who's 28 now. Okay,
Mhm.
it's nice, but go do something real. But we didn't listen to stuff like that, and look what happened. Not just by us alone, but through something that we started to ripple on. literally a man's life was saved. It is a man named Jimmy Dennis, who's one of our best friends now, like truly epic music, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I said when he was on death row, one of the best people we'd ever met. Like crazy that someone could be in that circumstance, but nobody was listening. And we were told not to listen. We didn't listen to that. And now somehow that weird trajectory, not directly, but pretty much directly, led us to this crazy path where now our life is VIP parties and 9 business trips in 2019 to 5 countries and 4 continents, on
Wow.
8 different projects. Never should have been able to access that. And meanwhile, more importantly, Jimmy Dennis walked out 2017, a free man, living his dreams, living with his family, having, a life now. He calls me now from a cell, not a cell. I still can't get over
Yeah.
that after 4 years. And so, you can do things that you can't imagine you can do. He always said, I quote him, never, never give up. And that's not just a little phrase when somebody who spent 25 years, not just in prison, but on death row, if you can imagine, where they're like, no, we're going to kill you. You're garbage. Nobody cares. And we're going to kill you. Imagine what that does to the human soul with only a little bit of light, a little bit. And always say, never, never give up. Never, never give up. So if that can get you through something like that, guys, it can get you through. And what I add to that is something I found on Facebook, which is great for entrepreneurs, which is we didn't get this far to only get this far. So you got this far, you're doing your thing, but why stop there? Push yourself just a little bit. And then when you see what you accomplished by pushing yourself that little bit, you see, maybe you write an article on Medium, which anybody can do, like a Facebook page, and then you share it and you get some good response. People are like, oh, that's great. I love that point you made. And then you start to feel, oh, yeah, look, I have something to say. Little things like that do things and boost your confidence, and then you will be more confident. And, I don't remember what author said this, but it's a fact. They say 100 hours of doing something, you're really good at it. 1,000 hours of doing something, you're pretty much a genius. And I don't know if that's true with those numbers, but it makes sense. And then when you're good at something, you start to like to do it more, right? You're confident. Now, I used to be nervous about media. Now I slip down in, 30 seconds before, and we're like, yeah, let's go. you know, so you just have to be, it's easy and trite. It sounds easy and trite, just that believe in yourself thing. But just remember that everybody else has, 99% of the people have the same feelings you do. You're not different when you walk in the room and feel like everybody's looking at you and you have to have something to say. Everybody has that. That's why they have phrases like, imposter syndrome and everything. So just realize, no, question yourself when you do that. Go like, no, that's ridiculous. Clearly, I'm an expert at this, or I wouldn't have started my automotive repair business. I'm an expert at cars. I can talk about, I can answer any media question about cars. Like, I'm your guy. So, realize that, that stuff. As soon as you realize that, and that the next step is that you're not different from the people that you see on the media getting quoted again. Only difference is they had a Tracy sending the email, or that they were, they had a contact and they were smart enough to figure out, the time and effort and blah, 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 to reach out, and it was successful. But that's the only difference. It's not because, the media doesn't run around looking for when you see a doctor quoted on TV, unless he sent the press release and that's how he became the story. If they thought of the story, they're not looking around for the very best doctor in the country to quote. They're looking through their sources. Okay, who did we have that spoke about that? Oh yeah. How do you get to be the source? You tell them about yourself. But there's you can't just message the newsroom and say, hey, I talk about, wall repair. Let me know if you need that. You have to go where they're looking for that and where, so that's where the skills and the strategy come in. But that's how it all comes down to you, every single person listening. Like, I don't care if they do lawn care. I literally see media requests for lawn care. I don't care if you, clean the toilets at a hotel. Everybody has an expertise, not just about what they're actually doing, but the environment, the things they've learned because of it, So everybody has a story, and there are absolutely places for you to tell the story. And it just literally comes down to you realizing I have, and you have a story, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you've given such great information, Tracy. I really appreciate it. But I want to leave you with this one last thing. Like, what through our whole conversation, like all the listeners out there, like what kind of message you really? I mean, like I said, you've given some great information. Like, what kind of message do you really want to send to them? Like with your last words.
Really just empowerment. I just want to empower people to find that in themselves, find the expert in themselves, realize you're already doing that with whatever it is you're presenting to the world right now from a small, most of you are small business owners, or just if you're dreaming of being one, or if you're just, want to be an author, or whatever it is you want to present to the world, you have that. And don't let your own, like everything, don't let your own self-doubt, which is one of your biggest enemies, regardless of, we're all in different places in the world. Some are more privileged than others. Obviously, I want to acknowledge that. I'm not just saying go, go, go. Our world is awesome. But, someone like Jimmy Dennis was certainly not privileged when he was sitting on death row with this many bars between, like it was impossible, based someone like me that I can, say this all day. But whether it was Jimmy or me, or anybody, whatever you're facing, if you allow it to crush you, then, whether it's a pea or a mountain, because some people can't handle the pee. If you allow it to crush you, then you're done. But if you say, no, what, everybody has something to face. Some people have a lot of things. I'm going to crush through that rebel to make the path to pick up whatever in Haiti, whatever those people are doing there. I couldn't do that, but somebody is willing to do that. So whatever, you know what I mean? You can do that. We have the power. Nobody can do anything by sitting around thinking about how they can't do it. And all these riches, and I'm talking about like emotionally and financially and everything. I'm not talking finance. I'm not really a money girl. It's more about but certainly your success in your business as well on the other side. But all these riches and all kinds of good things, literally away on the other side if you push yourself through your own, I can't do that.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a great way to leave this off.
Hmm.
But I want to really thank you, Tracy, for coming on. I know it's been a while trying to get you on, so I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing all the fantastic information. Again, you
Thank
really opened
you.
my eyes to PR, to PR work and stuff. So something I definitely got to look at. So I really
Love to talk
appreciate
to you
that.
or any listener about it anytime. So
And one last thing, where can people actually find you, Tracy?
yeah, absolutely. If you spell my name down there, I'm the only one on the planet, but you can find me lamouriemedia.com, Instagram Tracy Lamourie PR Media, Lamourie Media on the Twitter. And if you want to use that old, telephone technology, you can see my phone number on there. We have a Beverly Hills phone number that comes through to me in Toronto while I'm over here in the border, this side of the border for now, and a Toronto number, of course. So yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody, and I will offer a free consult where we can actually talk about your business and what you would actually expect and all that fun stuff without any expectation.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you again, Tracy. Thank you, all you listeners out there. Until next time, we'll see you guys.